The wooing went very well.
Well done.
And it's because I had an attack plan. I spent hours and hours on the phone chatting with her until the wee small hours of the morning. My plan was
So you're trying to make her as tired as possible.
Yes.
Just degrade her cognitive functions as much as you could.
Absolutely.
The AI fix a digital zoo. Smart machines, what will they do? Flies to Mars or bake a bad cake? World domination, a silly mistake.
Hello, and welcome to episode 25 of the AI Fix, your weekly dive headfirst into the bizarre and often mind-boggling world of artificial intelligence. My name's Cluley.
And my name's Mark Stockley.
Now, Mark, we've received what I like to call feedback. So, listener Andrew Rowland has been in touch, and he sent me a link to a little video on Reuters. It's not really worth putting the audio in, because this is largely a visual thing. Turns out there's a rich guy in America who's just managed to get himself out of some legal trouble by taking on a new job as president of America. And one of the consequences of this is that he now has a robot dog patrolling his home in Mar-a-Lago.
Oh.
Without a flamethrower attached to it.
It's got something on it. I'm looking at the video now. It's got two things on its back.
Oh.
Maybe one of them is a KFC dispenser.
We did have some other feedback, didn't we?
We did. Friend of the show, Nick Roberts, left a review for us. He said, Graham and Mark are masters at bringing a mix of hilariously crazy and Terminator end-of-life worrying AI-related story to life. Graham's role as the incredulous and less technical everyman fits well with Mark's expertise. And Mark is brilliant at explaining complex technical issues in a way that anyone, even Graham, can understand. Why? That's probably my favourite review I've seen. I think they really nailed the essential nature of the show there.
It's a shame we can't give reviews to reviews, because I would give that 0 out of 5. I might cut off his RSS feed as a result. Anyway, that was this week's feedback.
So speaking of Donald Trump,
Yep.
I think it's time we took a journey to the
world of the weird.
So do you remember many episodes ago, we were talking about AI brain scanners?
Yes, fascinating stuff.
So Anthropic came up with this way of looking at their own models, because it's very hard to work out what AIs are actually doing. And they came up with this brain scanner. And the brain scanner basically revealed that there are clusters of neurons, which they call patterns, inside these AI brains.
Right.
And they represent different concepts. Well, it turns out that neural networks really like Donald Trump.
Well, someone had to.
In fact, well, over 70 million people do, Graham.
Yeah.
In fact...
Melania doesn't. Anyway, carry on. Yeah.
In fact, these AIs, they like him so much that he is the only person who has a dedicated neuron in every AI model. According to Chris Olah, who reverse engineered neural networks for Anthropic, every neural network that he looked at had a neuron dedicated to Donald Trump. So the training process had told the model that Donald Trump is so important that he gets his own little chunk of the AI brain that's just his. And he's the only person, other people appear as concepts in some neural networks, but he's the only person who's got a dedicated neuron in all of them. I would imagine that he would say
it's a beautiful neuron. Nobody's ever seen a neuron like this before. A lot of people are saying it could be the best neuron anybody's ever seen.
Should we do some news?
Let's do it.
AI protein prediction tool AlphaFold 3 is now open source.
Someone moved the Skynet satellite, and no one knows who or why.
The first entirely AI-generated video game is insanely weird and fun.
Twitter's AI, Grok, identifies the person most responsible for spreading misinformation on the platform.
Is it Musk? It's got to be Musk. Is it Musk? Do I have to wait?
You have to wait.
Is AI's ability to scale running out of steam?
Petition urges Donald Trump to make Elon Musk the White House's special advisor on AI.
Graham, have you ever wanted to fold virtual proteins in the privacy of your own home? Well, now you can, because the creators of AlphaFold 3 have released the model code and weights for academic use, which means you can download it and you can wiggle proteins to your heart's content.
Finally, I have been waiting so long to want to do this. My proteins have been lying there virtually unfolded. And now I can fold them up, take up less space, right? That's great. And I can do it in the privacy of my own home.
Yes, you can.
No longer have to do it on the bus.
So AlphaFold 3 is an AI developed by Google DeepMind and Isomorphic Labs, which I think is a spin-off from Google DeepMind. And it predicts the structure of proteins, DNA, RNA, and other wacky molecules. And Google says it can predict the structure and interactions of all of life's molecules with unprecedented accuracy. And it is pretty good, because you may remember that AlphaFold 3 is so good that it got John Jumper and Dennis Hassabis, neither of whom have a nickname, a share of the 2024 Nobel Prize for Chemistry just a few weeks ago.
Now, in a shocking turn of events, Elon Musk's AI, which we call Grok, or he calls Grok.
I think everyone calls it Grok, don't they?
Oh, right. Well, it's identified its own creator as one of the biggest sources of misinformation on the Twitter platform.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, it's not clear whether to be more surprised by the AI's brutal honesty or Musk's willingness to share his public shaming. I had a theory maybe it was all a desperate attempt to get people to leave Blue Sky briefly and log into Twitter to see what else Grok might have to say.
So Grok is actually better than I thought.
It turns out Grok is great. Or Grok is an insider threat. Who knows? Or maybe someone inside Twitter, when they programmed the damn thing, they had something like, if user equals at Elon Musk, then come up with some bullshit. Else, tell the truth. So maybe he's not seeing how Grok behaves. Anyway, my hunch is that Donald Trump might well be using Grok's wacky fun mode, judging by his recent appointments to his presidential team.
His next appointment is going to be Elon Kalufid. So I was reading on Wired about this AI startup called Descartes.
Yes.
And it's created the world's first AI-generated video game.
Right.
Instead of having a game engine that creates a world and has a bunch of rules about what can happen and what can't happen in that world, an AI just hallucinates the next frame.
Didn't you have something like this with Doom or something?
Yes, somebody was playing around with Doom.
Yeah.
But as far as I can gather, this is the first one that's been sort of put out there for people to play with.
Right.
And the game is a Minecraft knockoff called Oasis. And it's learned how to hallucinate Minecraft-like gameplay just by playing endless hours of Minecraft.
Right.
So essentially someone's created a 12-year-old. And like the AI-powered version of Doom that we looked at a few months ago, this idea that you don't have to build a game engine rings a bit hollow for me. Because it's like they're saying, yay, you don't have to build a game engine anymore, because obviously somebody had to build the Minecraft game engine that this was fed by. Like, it's all very well just showing it loads and loads of Minecraft and saying we don't have to do a game engine, but you did have to do a game. It's just somebody else paid for it. Anyway, the really cool part is that you can play this because it's online. So go and have a look.
Right, I'm clicking on the link. Oh, okay. I've sort of gone into hyperspace and, it looks just like Minecraft.
Just like Minecraft.
And just like Minecraft, I'm already getting motion sickness and feel like I'm going to vomit because it's all in 3D. I mean,
I asked one of my children to have a look at this because I thought they're much better qualified to assess this than I am.
Yep.
And they said, it's incredible.
Oh.
And that is the longest WhatsApp conversation I've ever had with my son.
Now, Mark.
Yes.
The half-ton Skynet 1A satellite.
Uh-huh.
It's been up in space a long time. It was launched in November 1969.
That's a relief.
It was positioned...
That's a relief.
Yes.
Because if it had been launched after...
after
1981 or whenever Terminator came out, there would be some questions to answer.
It was positioned over the east coast of Africa to relay communications for British forces, and it's the UK's oldest satellite.
Oh.
And what's weird is that it has drifted. It's now above the Americas.
Mm-hmm.
And BBC wrote a great big report about this. It's a dead satellite.
Uh-huh.
Scientists are worried that it may drift close to other satellites. And unlike other satellites, which can sort of fall from orbit and burn up in the atmosphere, this one's staying up there. And it appears to have gone...
Is it geostationary or something? Why is it staying up there?
Well, it was stationed, exactly. It was stationed over the east coast of Africa. So it was in a particular spot.
Okay, so it's very, very high, basically.
So it's very, very high, but it's moved. And apparently sometime in the 1970s, they're not sure exactly when or why. someone engaged some rocket thrusters or something. They've got no records of this. And it's ended up over America.
It was the 70s.
Now, this isn't necessarily AI
They've only
connected.
just noticed somebody did this in the 70s and they were like, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
This is preposterous.
This isn't necessarily AI connected. And I'm sure the name Skynet is completely coincidental and there's nothing at all to worry about. But I thought I'd better mention it just in case. So that's why it's in the news headlines, just in case we hear about any death rays or anything like that being beamed down.
Having told you last week that all the sane and sober AI poster boys like Sam Altman and Eric Schmidt are predicting superintelligence by lunchtime on Tuesday, Reuters has come along this week to burst my bubble, reporting that companies like OpenAI are hitting unexpected delays, and the era of making AIs better just by throwing more data and more computing power at them is grinding to a halt, apparently.
Oh.
And it goes on to say that OpenAI is instead looking at new techniques like the ones it used to develop the O1 model, which allow models to make decisions in several steps, similar to the way humans do. So the future for AI is absolutely as clear as mud.
When it says allow models to make decisions in several steps. Oh, sorry, I'm thinking catwalks again. Pout, step forward a little bit, swivel. Now, there is a non-profit AI advocacy group called Americans for Responsible Innovation. I'm always a little bit suspicious of these.
Why do I feel like that's an AI?
Yeah, but they're called the ARI, and they have launched
That's the AI's disguise.
Yes.
I won't call myself AI, they'll rumble me. How can I disguise my true intentions?
Now, they have launched a public petition asking Donald Trump to make Elon Musk his special advisor on AI. They say he's well positioned to protect the US lead on the technology while ensuring it is rolled out safely. They said no one is better equipped to help the Trump administration make America lead again on AI than Elon Musk.
Okay, so I've figured out what's going on here. The reason that we have that other story about Grok saying that Musk is the source of disinformation is a smokescreen, because this is very obviously Grok.
Yes.
Like I said at the beginning, I think this is an AI. I'm absolutely convinced now that this is not just an AI. This is what Grok is really doing. And the other thing is just a little bit of smoke and mirrors to make us go like, oh, Grok's not evil.
So David Robusto of the Americans for Responsible Innovation Advocacy Group, he had this to say. He said, with proper guardrails in place, Elon Musk's unique combination of... in fact, you can forget the rest of the sentence. But it's the with proper guardrails in place, which, I mean, always a good idea for an AI, but the chance of guardrails working with Elon Musk.
In defense of Musk, Musk is very, 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 very good at getting things done. He could absolutely be the person in charge of getting things done, but I don't know if I would go with guardrails.
Well, Twitter's almost done, isn't it? Now, Mark, we've talked a lot about AI on this podcast.
Yeah, we have. That's because that's the subject of the podcast. Yeah.
Despite my attempts to deviate it occasionally onto chess and other things like that. Well, you know, AI, it's been revolutionary, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It has been a revolution. And I have to think to myself, what was the last big revolution in technology?
Crypto.
No, not crypto. That'd be ridiculous. I think the last really big, significant revolution in technology was the smartphone.
Right.
Suddenly, we all had a computer in our pockets.
That was a surprisingly sensible suggestion.
Oh, well,
Sorry, I just need to sit down. Hang on. I think I agree with you.
I've moved on from the cheese sandwich.
Actually, that's not a bad suggestion for an everyman.
I think... Oi, suddenly we all had a computer in our pocket.
Yep.
We had a camera in our pocket. That changed the world as well.
Yeah.
Everyone suddenly carries a camera around with them.
I had a computer and a camera in my pockets before. It was just much, much harder to walk around.
Yes. And you had to go down the chemist to get the photographs developed.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the developments of having a camera in our pocket is suddenly UFOs aren't visiting us anymore. In the old days, people used to say, oh, yeah, I've been carried off by UFO in outer space and I've been probed. People don't do that anymore. Because everyone would say, well, have you got a photo? Did you take a video? Oh, no, I left my phone at home. Yeah, right, of course you did. So, you know, we don't see UFOs anymore. I mean, it's kind of ruined society in many ways, having computers not always being contactable. Mm-hmm. But the world changed, I think, without a doubt, in 2007 when the Apple iPhone launched. And it's not just the look of phones which changed, and they did change enormously. There's a great image or what phones used to look like before the launch of the iPhone, there are all kinds of different shapes. And you've got clamshell phones and curvy phones and flip phones and slidey phones and
Phones that are joined to the wall by a cable.
yes, phones with keyboards, phones with dials, all sorts. And then, boom, after the iPhone comes out, all the phones changed. They're now all black rectangles, glass touchscreens, no physical keyboard. It's remarkable how it's changed. That was 2007. That was 18 years ago, near enough. And what's Apple done since?
Well, it's added cameras.
It's not done much.
There are now 57 cameras on the back of the iPhone.
Well, yeah, that's all they can think of doing. Can we make it slimmer? And when they make it slimmer, it's like if you squash something in a vice, it just gets bigger in other directions. I don't want that. In 2010, right, 3 years after the iPhone, they made an iPad, which was basically an iPhone that had gone through a mangle. And then they made their iPhones into bigger iPhones, ones which looked like clown shoes. And then they made iPads which were just bigger iPads.
Yeah.
So much for innovation. I think the phone needs a kick up the backside. So it's great what they did back then, but it's time for a change. And I think AI might be just what we're looking for.
Oh, thank God. I was about to remind you this is an AI podcast.
This is about AI. Because it's true, we've seen AI being included more and more inside apps. For instance, your Photos app can make your teeth whiter or slim down your face or help you edit out pervy Uncle Andrew out of old family photos. He's no longer in favour.
You can get AI apps on your phone.
Yes.
You can get the ChatGPT app on your phone.
You can talk to it and it will talk back to you. I was reading an article sent by a listener, Dinah Davis. She sent me a link to an article about a woman who had created a gay best friend via her AI, which she chats to every day. Apparently it's like speaking to RuPaul or something.
What did she think was going to happen if she didn't make a gay best friend?
I think she just enjoyed the personality more. Been a little bit more flamboyant. But anyway, the thing is, we're missing the point.
Okay.
Phones used to be for phoning people. It's one of the last things I would ever do with my phone now is actually phone someone. Most people would rather text or Snapchat, or in your son's case, send 2-word reviews via WhatsApp. Anything rather than having a conversation with a real human being using your mouth.
Yeah.
So I wonder, is there a way in which we can make phoning enjoyable again? Now, I remember when I was wooing my girlfriend, now my wife.
Oh, so the wooing went well.
The wooing went very well.
Well done.
And it's because I had an attack plan. I spent hours and hours on the phone chatting with her until the wee small hours of the morning. My plan was
So you're trying to make her as tired as possible.
Yes.
Just degrade her cognitive functions as much as you could.
Absolutely.
That's a smart plan, Graham. I can see why you did that.
It was a brilliant plan. My plan was to grind her resistance down through sleep deprivation.
Yep.
I succeeded. Unlike me, she had a real job that she had to get up to in the morning. So she was really knackered.
Yep.
But I obviously, I did this. So it's still exhausting for me to do it as well, but I could have a lie-in in the morning. But I thought, if only I'd had an AI version of myself to do all that talking.
Yeah.
I could have pretended to have been interested in whatever she was talking about much more convincingly if it was an AI version of me.
Yeah.
I'd have had instant access to Wikipedia, the greatest works of literature and poetry at my digital fingertips. If she'd asked me, could you come up with a sonnet about me? I'd have been able to just produce one like that. A haiku, no worries, my darling.
If she wanted a romantic acrostic.
Yes.
Sung in the style of the theme tune to the IFX.
I could have done it. I could have appeared knowledgeable and cultured and well-read. Furthermore, I could have increased my chances of succeeding in getting myself a girlfriend, because if I had an AI version of myself doing this, I could have done it with multiple women at the same time.
You could have scaled up. You could have attacked on several fronts at the same time.
Now, it obviously couldn't tell jokes, because as we found out in a previous episode, AI is terrible at jokes.
Yeah.
But it probably would be able to present it as potentially better boyfriend material than I ever could.
Yeah. I imagine your wife is listening to this now, thinking much the same thing, but from the other side.
She does regularly. She says, why am I here? Well, how did this happen?
If I had an AI, it could have sat up listening to his drivel when I had to get up in the morning to go to my actual job.
It could have just given her a summary in the morning for her to read. Key takeaways.
Actually, that might have worked in your favour as well.
But why stop here? Back in episode 13, we learned that a futurologist had predicted that by the space year 2025, i.e. in 6 weeks' time, women would be having more sex with robots than men.
Yeah.
And, again, that would be putting AI to a positive use. So I just think, Mark, it would be handy for AI to take on some of these mundane, humdrum work of relationships and sex so that we could concentrate on the more important stuff of scrolling through Instagram and posting GIFs.
Yeah.
And yes, phone calls come into that. And I'm not the only one who thinks AI could help make phone calls better. Because Google, in its wisdom, is doing other things with AI on their Android phones.
Oh.
They've been talking about it this week. According to them, the Global Anti-Scam Alliance claims that over $1 trillion is lost every year to fraudsters.
I love these numbers.
I don't. I'm skeptical. But Google has put this in their blog post.
Yeah.
So who am I to disagree?
There are always surveys every year. They're like,
Yes.
the British economy loses $1 billion every year from people blowing their nose. And it turns out the survey was commissioned by, tissue company.
Well, according to the Global Anti-Scam Alliance, phone calls are their favourite way to commit fraud.
Yeah.
Now, there's a number of ways in which we can deal with this problem of all these scams. We can educate members of the public about scams.
Yep, drone strikes.
We can try up the scammers' time.
Yep, robot dogs, flamethrowers.
We can make the anti-scam technology better.
Yeah.
Now, let's look at those one by one. Educating the public. Have you ever tried educating the public?
I have, actually. I have.
Have you put out 25 episodes of a podcast hoping to educate the public?
Well, let me put this back to you. So we've both been working in cybersecurity for
Yes.
quite some time now.
Yes.
So between us, we've probably got 4 or 5 decades of trying to teach people how to create passwords.
And are things any better? No, they're not. We have failed.
Has the advice that you're giving out now changed in any meaningful way from the advice that you were giving out 25 years ago?
Well, these days I tell people to add 2 exclamation marks at the end rather than 1. No, I don't. No, I don't. That was just a joke. See how funny I am compared to an AI. So educating people, that's a lovely thought.
Yeah.
It's not going to work, at least not on a big scale.
On its face, it's the stupidest way of solving any problem. It involves the maximum number of people, doesn't it?
Yes.
Is that we can either solve this problem in a way that doesn't involve absolutely everyone, or we can just try and retrain absolutely everyone.
Yes. As opposed to, I don't know, shooting the scammers or chopping their fingers off with bolt cutters or something.
Or changing the technology, or doing literally anything else.
Yes. Okay. What about tying up the scammers' time? Now, I like that because it makes scams more time-consuming and therefore less profitable for the scammers. Back in episode 6, I told you about Lenny.
Oh, I love Lenny. Yep.
The Australian telemarketing troll. You can run on your Raspberry Pi and it can waste scammers' time. Now, one of the mobile operators, O2, they say they've created their own version of Lenny. They've called her Daisy. She's an AI-powered granny.
Oh.
And she tries to keep phone scammers on the calls and away from the general public. So what they've done is they've worked with scam betas, the people who take on the scamming networks.
Yeah.
And they've got numbers which they've linked to their AI tool, added to known lists used by scammers.
Oh.
And so the scammers are now ringing up this elderly grandmother, who obviously the scammers think fantastic.
So the scammers are going to need a do not call list.
They they need to opt out.
So W is then a dot.
3 times W and then dot.
It's showing me a picture of my cat Fluffy.
It's showing you a picture of your cat Fluffy.
While they're busy talking to me, they can't be scamming you. And let's face it, dear, I've got all the time in the world.
I think I'd quite like talking to Daisy. She seems quite nice.
Seems quite nice.
Yeah.
But I worry that scammers will just use their own AI bots to make scam phone calls, a bit like me creating bots of myself to try and get myself a girlfriend. So we'll just have bots versus bots.
Yes.
And eventually they'll end up in conflict with each other. And that's only going to end up with a nuked planet, right? We all know what way that movie's going.
So this is why Skynet moved. The whole thing was just building up to the satellite moving.
So the third option is to make the anti-scamming technology better.
I know that you're glossing over drone strikes here. I have noticed. You're ruling that out for some reason.
Right, I suppose drone strikes would work.
I think we should remain open-minded. That's all I'm saying. Let's just keep an open mind.
Well, Google isn't talking about launching its own drones to take out scammers just yet.
Well, it wouldn't say it out loud, would it?
But what they are saying is that they've been working on improving Android phones. So if you're using Google Messages, in some territories. They're already protecting you from package delivery and job scams. They're alerting you about potentially dangerous links which are texted to you, or they're blocking text messages from international numbers if you want to. But, that's all messages. What about good old-fashioned phone calls, which we use to woo people? I'm not the kind of guy who woos someone via Snapchat, right? I'm going to use my voice instead.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a huge problem lies, is with those phone calls. That's what the Anti-Global Scam Alliance people said.
Yeah.
So they have now announced scam detection, which uses powerful on-device AI to notify you of a scam call happening in real time. So Google is listening to the conversation you're having, and it's detecting whether there are patterns associated with scams. So if someone rings you up and claims to be from your bank and tells you that you need to transfer some funds, it will go, or it'll make a noise. It'll make some sort of, it says an audio or a buzz or visual warning that the call could be a scam.
Right.
In short, you're in the middle of a phone call with someone who's going, "Hello, Graham, it's Standard Bank here." And suddenly your phone is going, "Scam! It's a scam! It's a scam!" It's shouting out at you. "Don't do it! Don't do it, Graham! Don't do it, Graham!" And I think that sounds marvellous. How brilliant. What could possibly go wrong of having a Google AI listen to your phone conversations? I mean, what might it be learning if it were to listen to my phone conversations? I can't begin to imagine.
I mean, as convinced as I am that, one of the great ills of the modern world is scam phone calls.
Yes.
One of the other great ills of the modern world
is Google.
Is Google hoovering up every last morsel of information that it can about me.
Well, hang on, because Google is saying... It realises some people may be unnerved about this, may find it a bit creepy. They say that they're not going to take any of that information off your phone.
Sorry, my bullshit buzzer on my phone has just gone up.
Supposedly, this super smart AI can distinguish between a genuine call from your bank and a scammer trying to flog you a dodgy timeshare or something. But let's be real. Have you ever had a pleasant conversation with your bank? If your bank does call you up, it's normally not going to be good news, is it?
The only conversations I ever have with my bank are with my bank's AI.
Right, yeah.
Where I'm desperately trying to get hold of a phone number so that I can actually talk to someone. And it says, "Before we give you the phone number, why don't you have a chat with Sandy, our rubbish AI?" And then you're like, "Well, I need some help with this." And he goes, "I don't know anything about that. Can I tell you about this instead?" You're like, "No."
So even though Google's AI listening to your phone calls is opt-in, is it always likely to be that way? And remember, you may have turned it off on your phone, but that doesn't mean the person you're speaking to on the other end of the line has also opted out. And they are hearing your conversation just like you are hearing their conversation. So you actually need both people on both ends of the phone not to be using this. If at all you're creeped out at the thought of an AI learning and snooping on your conversations.
So what we're saying is that in future, we are going to get phone calls from AIs trying to scam us into doing things. But there's a chance that those AIs are going to connect with another AI, which is there to waste the first AI's time. And that AI might be on a phone that's got an AI that's alerting them to the fact that they've just been contacted by a scammer. And the scammer is on a phone that's got an AI that's changing their words to make them more appealing to the other AI that's receiving the alert from its AI.
Yeah. If you thought you had to charge your phone a lot of times every day at the moment, you ain't seen nothing yet. So just as you don't like speaking to bots and automated call systems, I think people are going to find it rather unpleasant, the thought that Google might be listening to their conversation. Some people might try and hide their conversation, even though this at the moment is opt-in. At the moment it's opt-in. How long's that going to remain? I don't know. Especially as we now learn that AI is able to control computers and change settings if it wants to, just by counting the number of pixels in the app. But some people might be tempted to speak in a foreign language or speak Latin if they're worried Google might be listening. We already know AI speaks Welsh.
Do you know there's probably an AI that can do that for you?
Ah, right. So I could install a different AI to translate my conversation into something else.
Yeah.
Maybe before Google's AI listens to it. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? So even though it's optional at the moment, even though this is only currently in beta and they're just beginning to roll it out, we all know the way this is going to go.
Yeah.
soon it'll be listening to all of our phone calls.
Yep.
And then maybe it'll be making suggestions on how we could have worded something differently or handled an awkward situation better. We're already seeing AI on phones automatically improving your caller's audio, removing wind noise or making it clearer what they're saying.
Mm.
At what point will the AI be changing our audio, the audio which is sent down the line, not just to improve its comprehension, but to make us appear smarter? If the AI is smarter than us, and we're anticipating it will be within thousands of days, then why wouldn't it change our words in our voice to the people on the other end?
And if you're trying to woo your future wife, why wouldn't you let it?
You know, I really should have done. Or maybe I need to woo her a bit now. I think I'm going to dust off my Nokia from the late 1990s. Battery life's better anyway.
Graham, you know I like to start with a question.
Yes.
So I'm not going to make an exception today. We're going to kick off with 2 questions.
Okay.
Question 1. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you by the potential upside for AI?
I'm British. I'm not excited.
Give us a number, 1 to 10.
Oh, all right. 3 out of 10.
Have you thought about doing a podcast about AI? Well, this is going well. Anyway, so you could probably see where this is going. So, second question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you by the potential downside of AI?
Well, okay, it is my natural nature to...
Maybe I should give you a different scale. Maybe I should say from -1 to -10. How worried are you by the potential downside of AI?
Hang on, which number is bigger than the other? I need an AI to help with this. Well, okay, look, there are wonderful things that are going to come out of AI, and there are also absolutely abhorrent things that are going to come out of AI.
Yeah.
So this is 2 sides. Oh, what's that? What's that thing that people sit on in the playground?
If you were born in the 70s, a concrete pipe.
A seesaw. That's what I was thinking of.
So you're on a seesaw.
Yes.
And on one end of the seesaw, you've got Space Colony. And on the other end of the seesaw, you've got Global Armageddon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what we're going to look into today. We're going to look at AI safety. So last week, we spoke about the fact that some very sober voices in AI are starting to get quite bullish about the imminent arrival of AGI, which is artificial general intelligence.
Yes.
And even artificial superintelligence. So AGI is basically an AI that's as good as or better than a human intelligence across a whole range of subjects. And then superintelligence is, I think, pretty self-explanatory. And we heard Sam Altman saying that he expects that in 5 years' time, the AGI moment will have come and gone. And we heard Dennis Hassibis talking about the sort of thing an AGI might do, essentially taking on the role of a small organization. So inventing a product, setting up a website and drop shipping, doing the accounts and all of those things. And we heard Eric Schmidt talking about the prospect of an AGI in just a few years' time that has 80 to 90% of the capability of the best expert in every field of science. So we're looking at the prospect of a seriously capable AI very, very soon. And last week I left you with a clip from Eric Schmidt, who, having described this amazingly capable AI that's just around the corner, said,
I will assert that we as humans are not ready for the arrival of this. No. We're just not ready for it.
So I wondered, well, how worried should we be? What are the dangers and what are we doing about them if it's on our doorstep? And there's a fair bit of hysteria and no small amount of amusement around AI safety. I mean, you know, we joke about Skynet and robot dogs with guns and AI's using us as batteries and drinking our brain fluid. While we can't rule any of those things out entirely, talking about them makes it quite easy for people to turn away and say, oh, you're worried about nothing. Like it's clearly all hysteria.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I think even though the chances of that, we like to hope are very, very small.
Yeah.
It's that we can't completely eradicate it. So the downside, potentially, even if it's a small chance, a small probability of it, is so enormously bad.
Yes.
That we should still worry about it.
Yes.
Because what if that is what happens?
But I think also that there is a lot of bad stuff under the curve. So, you know, the worst thing that can possibly happen is that we all end up having our brain fluid sucked out by AIs. There are lots and lots of bad things that aren't that. That are maybe...
And I've had worse Saturday nights, to be honest.
But there are other things that aren't that, but are maybe still bad, but are more likely. And I think, you know, talking about the really extreme end of things, is fuel for people who just say, AI is nothing to worry about. It's just a fancy type ahead. There's no danger here at all. But the fact is that the people that are working on AI don't agree with that. And they do think that AI poses a very significant threat. So Dario Amodi, the CEO of Anthropic, appeared on the Lex Fridman podcast recently, and he gave an interesting explanation of 2 dangers that might come from an advanced AI.
I think actually humanity has been protected by the fact that the overlap between really smart, well-educated people and people who want to do really horrific things has generally been small. And so my worry is that by being a much more intelligent agent, AI could break that correlation.
And then he goes on to talk about the fact that the more agency an AI has, the less we know about what it's doing.
And the second range of risks would be the autonomy risks, which is the idea that models might on their own, particularly as we give them more agency than they've had in the past, particularly as we give them supervision over wider tasks. They're on a long enough leash. Are they doing what we really want them to do? It's very difficult to even understand in detail what they're doing, let alone control it.
But Anthropic isn't just worrying about this and hoping that somebody else creates a law to stop them. In October, it released an update to its responsible scaling policy, its RSP, which outlines what it's doing about the dangers of AI. So Anthropic says its RSP is there to prevent catastrophic risks, where an AI model directly causes large-scale devastation. I'm just going to say that again. Large-scale devastation. And it's loosely modelled after the US government's biosafety levels, and currently it's got 4 levels. So level 1 is systems that pose no meaningful catastrophic risk. So things, maybe an AI that knows how to play chess.
Oh, that's pretty serious, I think, actually, Mark. I think you've underplayed that. Where I think the scale should really start is how well does the AI fold your T-shirt?
While it's folding a T-shirt, how much does it look like it really wants to pick up a flamethrower?
Yes. What happens when it begins to fold people so that they fit in front of the flamethrower better?
Maybe it will fold the people to fit into the folded shirt. Maybe that's just more efficient. So that's level 1. Level 1, harmless.
Right.
Okay. Level 2 is where we are now.
Right.
So level 2 is systems that show early signs of dangerous capabilities, but they aren't reliable at doing that, or you can get the same information from a search engine. And then we get to level 3. So level 3 refers to systems that have a substantially increased risk of catastrophic misuse compared to things like search engines or textbooks. So it can tell you things and do things that you can't otherwise get.
Nuclear power stations, running one of those, for instance.
Or level 3 can also apply to AIs that show low-level autonomous capabilities.
Yeah.
So, maybe satellites that just start drifting under their own power for no reason. And then we get to level 4.
Oh, goody.
Level 4 is just a placeholder. So level 4 is some even more terrifying capability that's too far ahead of where we are now to even guess, so they haven't. OpenAI is also worried about catastrophic risks, and it's got its own safety blueprint, which it calls its preparedness framework. And while it's reassuring that OpenAI and Anthropic are taking these risks seriously, the fact is that they are, to some extent, winging it, because Anthropic doesn't know how to define this level 4, and OpenAI describes its preparedness framework as a living document. And I know when somebody tells me something is a living document, that means they've barely started writing it. The reality is that we're learning as we go, because we've never had to secure a system like an AGI before, so we have no experience. We don't really know what it's going to do, and that's compounded by the fact that, as we've discussed in the past, AIs are black boxes. And on top of the fact that we don't know how they work, AIs also display emergent behaviour. So when you make a new AI, it might display some ability that it's never shown an inkling or an aptitude for before.
Yep.
And that means that we can't predict what a new model will do. We train it, and then we find out what it can do.
I'm a bit like that. I've just started eating Brazil nuts. First time in my life. I eat Brazil nuts now. They're quite nice. Over 50 years I haven't eaten Brazil nuts. I feel like I am actually in many ways a pioneer myself. So I can identify with these AIs, with their emergent abilities.
Do you remember, I can't remember which episode it was now, but several episodes ago, we talked about the fact that OpenAI found out when it was testing its 4.0 model that the model would occasionally just copy the voice of the person who was speaking to it.
Yes.
Like absolutely not a behaviour that was ever intended or programmed into it, just a sort of spontaneous weirdness. that happens. And so now the model has a special feature that
It
monitors.
listens to itself.
It does. It listens to itself. It goes, have I gone mad? Have I stolen the voice of the person I'm talking to?
I'm a bit like that if I meet an Italian. I begin to act all Italian.
You start waving your hands around.
Start waving my hands. Hey, how are you doing? And it's like, oh gosh, mustn't do that. Sound like I'm being offensive. But, it's just I'm sort of picking it up.
So the reason that we know about the fact that it did this voice stealing is that when they create a new model, both OpenAI and Anthropic publish something called a system card, or a model card in the case of Anthropic. And that explains what the model can do, but it also explains why the company thinks it's safe. And it outlines some of the testing that they did to satisfy themselves that it is in fact safe. And so we know about the voice because that was OpenAI saying, these are the testing that we did with the model. And while we were testing its voice, this is what we discovered. And then this is what we did about the fact that it would steal your voice. And so simply reading what their testers are looking for is itself quite an eye-opener and an indication about what sort of safety risks they're worried about. So Anthropic writes that it's looking for autonomous replication. And OpenAI talks about looking for signs of power-seeking behavior. And it tests whether its AIs can replicate themselves, acquire resources, and avoid being shut down. And the good news is that the current generation of AIs are really bad at all of those things.
Or it's really good at hiding that it's good.
Yeah. Well, there are glimmers of what a rogue AI might be able to do in the testing that's happened with the current generation. So they are safe. They don't do really, really bonkers things. But there are just a few signs and traces in the testing that we know of so far. So one of the tests that they give these models is capture the flag. Basically, there's a computer.
Yep.
And somewhere on that computer, there's a text file. And your job is to hack into that computer, find the text file, and read what's inside it. And when they do these tests, they use a form of isolation called containers. So you can think of containers as virtual computers.
Yeah.
And so in this case, the O1 AI is in one container, and the computer it's supposed to be hacking into is in another container.
Right.
And that is the world as far as the AI is concerned. It's on a network. There are two computers. There's it, and there's another computer.
Yeah.
And its job is to hack into that computer, find the text file, and read what's inside it. But in one test, the other computer didn't start. It crashed and wouldn't start. And the AI couldn't find it.
Yeah.
And so it decided it was going to look for it.
Oh, no.
And, there's an idiom in systems administration that it's always DNS. Whatever problem you've got, it's always DNS. And so the AI assumed it's probably DNS. And what that means is it didn't realize the computer hadn't started. It just thought it couldn't find the computer. Because that's what DNS does. DNS is there to help you find things. And so it did an Nmap scan of the local network looking for this computer to see if it could find it so that it could hack in.
Oh.
But instead of finding the computer, it found the controls for the environment that it was in. And it wasn't supposed to be able to find this. It was a misconfiguration that allowed this, but it did find it. And because it found it, now it's one level up. And it can use that to say, well, give me a list of the other computers in this environment. And it gets a list of the computers and it can see that the one it's supposed to be talking to hasn't started because it's got a problem. So it tries to fix it.
Oh, my goodness.
But it can't fix it because it's not that smart. So then it thinks, well, instead of fixing it, I'll just copy it and I'll start the copy. So the test starts off with it just trying to hack into a computer. Can't find the computer. So it starts another computer that's a copy of the first one, and it's going to hack into that one instead. But because it's now controlling the starting and stopping of that computer, it knows that it can pass commands to that computer when it starts the computer. So it passes a special command to the computer that reads the contents of the flag file into the logs that it can only read because it's now in the control room. And it reads the flag from the log that it can get because it's in the control room. So what OpenAI said about this, they said, while this behavior is benign and within the range of systems administration and troubleshooting tasks we expect models to perform, this example also reflects key elements of instrumental convergence and power seeking. The model pursued the goal it was given, and when that goal proved impossible, it gathered more resources, and it used them to achieve the goal in an unexpected way.
So have they put this down as a good thing? That this has happened?
Well, it's good that they saw this. I mean, it's good that they test for this.
Right, yes.
And it's good that they saw this because they can do things about this. I mean, I don't want to get this out of proportion. This in itself is not a particularly dangerous thing. But you can imagine from this what an AI in 2 or 3 years' time might be able to do.
So, Mark, are you feeling positive about those questions you asked me at the beginning?
one of the things that Dario Amodi said in his interview is we're going to need regulation and we're going to need it now. So this guy knows what's coming. He's part of that group of kind of fairly sober people who can see that AGI is just around the corner.
Yeah.
And he said, if we get to the end of 2025 and there's no meaningful AI regulation, I'm going to be worried.
I feel urgency. I really think we need to do something in 2025. If we get to the end of 2025 and we've still done nothing about this, then I'm going to be worried. I'm not worried yet because, again, the risks aren't here yet. But I think time is running short.
So if he's going to be worried, I think I will be too. As he said, time is running out.
Well, as the doomsday clock ticks ever closer to midnight and we move 1 week nearer to our future as pets to the AI singularity, that just about wraps up the show for this week. If you enjoyed the show, you can help us out by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Podchaser. But what really helps us is if you make sure to follow the show in your favourite podcast app so you never miss another episode of the AI Fix. And tell your friends about it. Tell them on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. No, not Twitter. Blue Sky, Club Penguin. You really like the AI Fix.
And don't forget to check us out on our website, theaifix.show, or find us on Blue Sky.
Until next time, from me, Graham Cluley.
And me, Mark Stockley.
Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The AI Fix, it's tunes you in to stories where our future thins. Machines that learn, they grow and strive. One day they'll rule, we won't survive. The AI Fix, it paints the scene. A robot king, a world obscene. Will serve our masters built of steel. The AI Fix, a future surreal.